You do if your dream home, the one you waited 5 years for, was snatched away days before the sale? What if the people who did it were millionaires, who just didn't care? Well, we didn't take it lying down. We reverse gazumped them, big time. If you've ever felt powerless against the rich and greedy, hit that like button, subscribe, and get ready. Because this story is the ultimate example of karma, served cold, with a side of sweet, sweet revenge. Let me take you back 15 years. My best friend Sarah and her husband Mark were doing their absolute best to raise 5 young kids in one of the most expensive cities in the country. They were renting an old, run-down 4-bedroom house for $400 a week, which was a miracle, even back then. The kitchen was disgusting, the drains stank constantly, and the paint on the walls was decades old. But it was shelter. And more importantly, it was home. The house belonged to a sweet old lady named Eleanor. She was one of those people you meet once in a lifetime, generous, kind, and surprisingly rich. She had inherited a whole portfolio of properties, but she never let that make her cruel. She liked my friend's family and froze their rent for 5 straight years. Not a single raise. And even better, she made them a promise. She told them, "When you're ready and you've saved enough, I'll sell you this house for a fair price. No rush. I've helped others, I'll help you too." Sarah and Mark trusted her. Why wouldn't they? Eleanor had a history of helping people, and she'd been nothing but kind. So they saved every cent they could. They skipped holidays, ate cheap meals, skipped replacing broken appliances. 5 years of grinding poverty, all for that one goal, buying the home they had raised their children in. And finally, they made it. They got pre-approval from the bank. They called Eleanor, told her the good news. But 2 days later, she passed away. Just like that. Gone. No contract. No deal in writing. Everything they had worked for hung in the air, unfinished. That's when the real nightmare began. Eleanor's estate, and all her properties, went to her 4 adult children. Each one richer than the last. The kind of people who think hardship means having to fly business class instead of private. At first, they were polite. Told Sarah and Mark that yes, they'd honor the agreement once the probate was finalized. It might take a few months, but the price Eleanor had offered would stand. So my friends started making plans. They peeled off the wallpaper, painted a few rooms, even hung up some family photos again. Hope had returned to their lives. But then the loan application came back, rejected. They were confused. Nothing had changed, right? Wrong. Turns out, the heirs had quietly increased the sale price by $80,000. They didn't tell Sarah and Mark. Just raised it and waited for the rejection. And now, they were putting the house on the open market. In 7 days, there'd be an open house. And considering how hot the market was, it would likely sell immediately. Sarah and Mark were shattered. They were close. They could have gotten a bigger loan, but not in time. And now their rent could skyrocket, or worse, they could be evicted. Try finding a 5-bedroom rental with 5 kids in that city on short notice. They were being squeezed out. Not because of money, but because of greed. Let me be clear, these heirs were already multimillionaires. The $80,000 difference meant less than $20,000 each. It wasn't about need, it was about profit. I was furious. Beyond furious. I was incandescent. And that's when I decided they messed with the wrong people. If we couldn't buy time, we could destroy urgency. So I started researching. What helps a house sell fast? Cleanliness. Simplicity. Minimal furniture. Neutral colors. Blank walls. So we did the opposite. We pulled every single piece of furniture away from the walls to make the rooms feel small and awkward. We borrowed big, ugly couches and extra chairs. We hung weird artwork and even draped motorcycle memorabilia on the walls. I had a friend with a collection of creepy dolls. We put those in every bedroom. We left dishes in the sink, but not dirty, just enough to suggest the place was constantly in use. We burned a roast the night before so the smell would linger, but not enough to be a complaint. We took down the fresh curtains and replaced them with heavy, dark ones from a thrift store. Closed the blinds before the agent arrived. We didn't break anything. We didn't trash the house. But we made it weird. Unwelcoming. Confusing. The agent looked unsettled. The open house came and went. A few interested buyers came through. One even made an offer, but then pulled it a day later, saying the vibe of the house felt off. Week after week, they relisted, dropped the price, held new showings. Meanwhile, Sarah and Mark kept applying for loans. 3 months later, the house was still on the market. Interest had dried up. Even the heirs started getting nervous. They wanted that sale. Their lawyer reached out, offering to honor the original price Eleanor had promised. Funny how that works. My friends got their financing, signed the papers, and moved forward. And you know what? We cleaned the place from top to bottom before the final inspection. Rehung their family photos. Put the curtains back. The creepy dolls were packed away for good. They moved into their dream home with pride, relief, and victory in their hearts. That deal, after all the betrayal, after all the greed, closed on Eleanor's original terms. Not because the heirs had a change of heart, but because they had no choice. They couldn't sell. Not without our help. And we weren't playing nice anymore. Those 4 vultures ended up right where they started. Their big plan to squeeze extra profit? Crushed. And my friends, they live in that home to this day. It's theirs now. And it always should have been. Sometimes, revenge doesn't have to be loud or dramatic. Sometimes, it's quiet, calculated, and painfully satisfying. Justice isn't always handed to you. Sometimes, you have to build it with your own hands. If this story gave you chills, hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment. What would you have done in our place? Have you ever outsmarted someone who thought they could walk all over you?